Over the last 18 months, I've been having a quarter life crisis, a bit of an existential crisis, if you can call it. And it's basically just come down to the fact that I don't really care anymore, right? It's like, deep down, I do care. I still have plans of like changing my life and, becoming a high value man and like, achieving lots of things in life. I'm 21. I still have a lot of things ahead of me and I still want that because I know life is way better with that than without it. But it's just come to the point where it's like, when it's time to work and I have the option of working or going on my phone, I'm just gonna go on my phone. Like I have no like drive anymore. I would say I have no motivation, but people say, oh, don't rely on motivation, rely on discipline, and I don't really care for all that. Like I understand, but you need to have like a deeper why, and that's the conclusion I did come to. You need to have a why, like just a deeper why. Like even within that discipline that you have, you still need to have a reason to be disciplined, if you get what I mean. And for me, I think I exhausted all my reasons. Like I tried like the changing your identity thing, seeing yourself as someone who's disciplined, and all the things. Like I've basically done. It's been 18 months. Like I've done all the things, and yeah, the spark is just not there, right? And I came to the conclusion that having a why is the number one thing. But if you've ever been in this situation, you know that finding a why is a lot easier said than done. So I was talking to my uncle, who's a psychologist, about 2 weeks ago, and I just basically explained to him what I just said now. And I ended up asking him, like, because he told me he went through something similar when he was like my age, and it's not. This is very common. Like I'm not unique in this situation. I think a lot of people have gone through it. And basically, I asked him like, how did you get yourself out of that, right? And he told me that, well, he just thought about like the people back home and like, because we're from Zimbabwe, right? And he's working in the UK, and he basically just said he just thought about like his parents and the people back home that he needed to send money to, right? And I basically just explained to him, I was like, I don't have like that responsibility, right? Like my parents and my little brother, they're like in New Zealand, and then my sisters, they're working or in uni. I don't have like that responsibility of like sending money to anyone or any of that responsibility on my shoulders, right? And he basically came back to me and he was like, no, you do. Yours is just like in a different form. It comes in a different package, right? And that's when I did have quite the light bulb moment when that happened, because I was like, oh, like I have my own version of it. It's not exactly like the way his was, because that's what I always think about. When I think about like my dad and just old, like when I hear like Patrick Bet-David stories and Jose Zuniga and all of them, and I'm like, okay, these people, like, they have gone through, like I said, we've all gone through tough times. But what got them through was like their why. Like, oh, my dad has got a family, right? He's got people to like send money to as well. I was like, I don't have that. I'm a Gen Z kid. I'm fine. I could like not finish my post-grad this year and I'd still be fine. I mean, I wouldn't. Like, I'd be pissed off. But I would be fine. Like, there's no one relying on me. And yeah, my uncle told me, he was like, no, you do have like your own responsibilities. You just need to like repackage them. Like, for example, he was just saying like, you can still think about like your future family, right? Your future family is definitely one. That's one thing I thought about. And he basically told me to just write down a list of potential like responsibilities I might want to adopt. And it really put like the nail in the coffin when I heard like Jordan Peterson speaking about it. Like I watched a video of him like 3 days ago, and I think the video, if you want to go watch it, it's basically how to find the meaning of life for men. And I've watched like a couple of his videos, and I was watching another interview he was having. It was with Vivek Ramaswamy. There was a segment where he was speaking about how he basically tells people like, what sustains you through difficult times is the adoption of voluntary responsibility, right? So it's like, if you're going through like a difficult time, like what he was saying was like, if you're going through like the storm, you're really in the desert, what gets you through that is like the adoption of voluntary responsibility. So you might picture someone who's got a family, right? If you've got a family, that's a no-brainer. I think that's like the number one. That is voluntary responsibility. Like, you choose to like go get married, you choose to go and have kids, right? And now all of a sudden, once you've got that, if you're going through like tough times, that's enough to get you through, because it's like your family needs you, right? Like, what are you going to do without them? And for me, that was a light bulb moment. That was like, okay, that's what I need to do. Like, voluntary responsibility. Take on things you don't need to take, because again, that's our biggest problem in this day and age, and that's what Jordan Peterson was speaking about, because there's a lot of demoralized men and everything, and like Jordan Peterson, that's the kind of timing is on. Like, he knows about all that. And he was basically responding to that. He was like, how do you get all these demoralized men out of like their state? And he just said, like, adoption of voluntary responsibility. Take on responsibility of some sort, whatever it might be. The one example I did think about doing, I don't know if I have the balls to do it, but basically, like, if you I wanna like force myself to make money because I'm still in uni. My parents still send me money and everything, and I don't need to work. I'm gonna start working next year, but I kind of want to start making like money now. I want to force myself to start making money. What's the way I can do that? I can basically just tell my parents, look, I want to pay monthly rent, right? That's adoption of voluntary responsibility. I don't need to do that, but all of a sudden, if I put that out there, the precedent has been set. Like, I need to pay rent. Now all of a sudden, oh, rent's due at the end of the month, and I've put that out there. I've told my parents I'm going to pay rent. Now all of a sudden, I'm working. Like, when I'm waking up and I'm like, oh, when I get home from work or from uni, and I've got like extra time, I can either work on my business or I can go to sleep. That option is no longer there to like go to sleep early or like to go on my phone or whatever, because I need to pay rent, right? And yeah, I think that's like one example I can give. I think other examples that I listed on my thing was like, I have a little brother, right? And he's like 13 or 12, and you know the world we're growing up in, trying to like demoralize man, and there's all this work agenda and everything, and it's like, one thing I wish I had an older brother. Like, that would be so sick. I have a friend who's in my class, and he's got an older brother, and you can just see like the way he always talks about him is like inspiring. And I'm like, okay, I'm not lucky enough to have my own older brother, but I'm someone else's older brother, right? So I need to set the example for him, right? It's kind of like the Andrew Tate thing, where it's like, this is a man with like he's got Bugattis, he's got girls and everything, and young boys will listen, right? Like teenage boys are gonna listen because he's got like the picture of like what a typical man would want. And it's kind of like the same thing with my brother, right? I need to become someone that's like, oh, he looks at me and he's like, damn, like my brother, like he's cool, like I want to listen to him, and I set the example, and then that makes like his life better. Like, that's me adopting voluntary responsibility. I've got a little brother. He's not my son, obviously, but he's still my little brother. Like, I still have some kind of responsibility, and that's the adoption of voluntary responsibility. But yeah, that's kind of what I came down to. I'd advise you, like, go on your journal and like write a list of like just potential people who might be relying on you. It's not having the list there definitely helps, because you can like go back to it and you can see, because like you don't have like an immediate thing where I can just be like, oh, wife and kids, right? But you have some people, you have like a little brother, you have a cousin, you have just things like that. Even if you don't have that, like, you just say like your future family. I remember I saw one of Hamza's community posts, and he was basically saying, whenever you feel like being a Jeffrey, and you're supposed to be working, but then you like just close the laptop early and you just want to knock out. He said, like, picture your little daughter like asking you, why did you stop working early, right? And when you do that, it's like, what reason are you going to give her? Oh, I just don't feel like it. What message is that going to send to your daughter? So it's just things like that. Like, just picture like a future family. Those are just random examples I can give you. But yeah, you can find your own examples. I'm sure you know a few that come to mind. But yeah, make sure you subscribe to join the Self-Improvement Brotherhood. And until next time, see you boys.